Hello folks, Rick Lopez here with CitiTurf Home Pest Control Division, and today we're on a location that we're doing a termite inspection. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to walk you through the process of what we look for, things that we do to actually find termites, any damages, conducive conditions of that nature as well. When you get to window sills, what thing we look at window sills, because a lot of times they are an exterior wall, is they do like to get into the trim and the mold part of that. And also your windows also will collect the moisture, and that's any window unless you're dealing with a real high efficient window. And then when you do have moisture that does get onto that wood for the window sill, that does create a nice conducive condition for them. We look up, we look at the crown molding that's up on the top, make sure, look at ceiling. Sometimes if you are looking at a wall and something just doesn't look right, it's always good to put hands on it. That way, when you put hands on it, you can kind of tell if it's an imperfection, if it's the paint, is it the sheetrock, or is it actually termites. When you are doing your inspections, you want to make sure, like here's our laundry room. When you do your laundry room, you definitely want to make sure that you're checking that water line. And with the water line on your washer and dryer connections, you're going to have a hot water, a cold water, and you're also going to have the drain for the washer in one section of the wall. And there's been many times we found termites in that area. So you really want to make sure, if you can get behind that washer to look at that area, do it. If it's hard to move and you can't, inspection mirrors are great. Most of them will have a little framing that goes on it. And if they're removable, you want to move them and check them, because sometimes if they get around this area here, it could hide. But this is the water lines we were talking about. It is a plastic encasement that's in there, so that does kind of hide a little bit of it. But these plumbing penetrations go down into the concrete and then actually come up right here. So, and that looks fine there. Don't see any issues. This here is just all water damage, just old and stuff. It's not the termite related or anything like that. So things like that we look for, and you're looking at the walls and looking up, make sure you're always checking the pantry. Pantry looks good. A lot of times pantries don't really see termite activity in pantries. Mostly you'll get like Indian meal moths, pantry moths, granary weevils and stuff like that. Totally non-related to termites, but those are what you kind of look for in that area. Again, you got cabinets that are on the wall, so it makes it hard to see anything. Dishwasher. You definitely want to look underneath your sink to make sure that your sink is fine. If you'll notice with this sink here, one thing, it's got a lot of mold growing underneath there. Now what that tells me is that this sink here had an actual water leak at one time. And apparently they addressed it, but the walls weren't dried out correctly. Center islands, usually nothing will go on there unless there's a cracked slab, because I've run into it on multiple occasions where center islands have gotten termites because of cracked slabs. But this one here does look fine. As you can tell, this home's been well lived in. It's got a lot of work needs to be done to it, but that's another thing here. This is our dining room. Dining room looks good. Window seats, one thing you want to look at on the window seats is making sure that it all looks good. You will run into some that will have a door that will come up. This one does not. So that's a full, solid, empty void. And a lot of things can come in through the weep holes outside and create cavities. I've seen snakes, rodents, all kinds of things get into these from the weep holes outside because it's just an empty cavity. Termites wise, it looks fine. I don't see anything that's going to tell me it's got any harboring or bedding or anything for termites. All looks good. Windowsill looks good. No moisture damage on it at all. Areas we look at in the garage, especially if they have a water heater, we want to check those areas. And we want to definitely check garages very well, because sometimes usually that's the best place to find termite activity. And if you notice, like up here is, you'll see some dirty areas. And the bad thing about some of those dirty areas when people are, this could be like, hey, we have some termite noticeable damage. Well, that's not what that is. That is either, unfortunately to say, like a gecko or something got up there and that's their droppings that have run down. Nothing termite related. So a lot of people will see things like this and they'll think that they might have termite activity. Another thing you'll see in garages that folks will think they have termites will be mud dauber nest. Mud dauber nests, they love to come in, build their nest in here. And I've had numerous of calls where they're like, I got termites in the garage, and get there and it's mud daubers. Again, you can see this area here. It looks like it could be a termite issue, but it's not. It's mud and dirt, and that's just basically where critters have gotten in there and rubbed up against it and stuff there. So some garages, you'll see these cabinets like this. I'll open a door and see if there's a wall behind there. Some of them will have a wall. Some of them will be the actual wall of the garage. Luckily with this one, it's just a frontal cabinet, so we can actually see the walls that are going on in there. When looking at outside or exterior doors, it's always good to open them up and look at the inside of them. There's been times where we've opened them up and we've actually seen termites inside the framework. On this one here, it does look good. I don't see any issues, but it does have wood rot out here on this structure here. And that wood rot is not from termites or anything like that. That's actually from where wood, water or ice or anything is collected up there and is soaked into the wood and actually deteriorated it. That's what we would call a conducive condition wood rot. Kind of show you what water damage looks like on a windowsill. If you'll look right here, you'll see bubbling in this area right here. And that's from this getting wet and kind of bubbling up right there. This here, you can tell by looking at the marks, that's definitely from a dog. Now this house here does have some substantial water damage, and we'll kind of turn and look up to the ceiling right here. And if you'll look at that, you can definitely tell where water has penetrated through the ceiling and into from the roof. Those are things we want to notate anytime we're doing an inspection. The reason being is because moisture does attract termites. Now, if this was closer to an exterior wall, I would definitely really be pointing that out. It's an interior X section. There's nothing up there that's going to be termite related. So we would make sure that, our clients do know those things are there, just so that they can make sure and get it taken care of. Now these little coved windows here, there's a lot of times we'll have an issue because they're curved and coved over an expansion joint. And if you'll notice this trim underneath that windowsill here has some damage to it. And you always want to come up, get close and personal with it. And when you're looking at it, you want to feel what's going on. And then when you get closer to the area, you can just feel it cracking, and you can see how it cracked right there. Now what happens and why this happens is that termites eat the cellulose. On sheetrock, they'll eat the paper. On wood is composed, it's got some cellulose material in it. And what the termites do is eat that cellulose. Once they've gotten all the cellulose out of it, they leave it alone. And then that's what causes the paint to crack like an egg, like this one's doing here. You can see and hear how it's just flaking. If you look at this piece of wood here, this is just what's left of that trim. And that's not cellulose there, that's just fibers. And that's stuff that the termites will not eat. So here we have so far one location of some termite damage. Now, we're not seeing any termites in it, so we can't call it active, but we can call it evidence of active termites. So that we would make sure we notate that as well. If we saw live termites, that's when we would notate it as activity present. Being that it's not, we're just going to put it as evidence. Or we can put previous activity, so one of the two. When you look at these, you can see how you've got some pops up here. None of that's termite related. That's just from when they had curtains up here and stuff. So now when you're checking master bathrooms or any bathroom, you think it's a heavy water source. So you're going to have heavy water activity, moisture, stuff like that. So you really want to look specifically around your bathtubs, your showers, your toilets, because those are going to be areas of prime moisture areas. Because one, you're taking showers, doors are closed, moisture's kind of flowing around. And we'll notice with this master bathroom, you'll see a lot of staining on the paint where the moisture has really kind of just flowed down and created water stains on the paint. Look how this shower has the tile going all the way up to the ceiling. That makes it hard for us to see what's going on in this water line right here. So the way these things are built is you'll have your concrete, the slab that they've done, and they'll actually leave an opening in the concrete. And that opening is because when the pipes come out, the foundation moves and shifts. It doesn't allow the concrete to break pipes. And when you have surrounds like this, you can't see what's going on at all inside this wall. And so it I kind of call a blind wall. And it's tied in with here and here. Now, it could be, with us not having the schematics, we don't know. Is this one single water line system here? is that a single water line? Is that a single water line? Or do they have one central location and it's all tied in? Without having the plans, we don't know that. So we just do the best we can when looking at something like this. Again, checking underneath your sinks. And we look here because that's where your P-trap and your water lines are coming up. If termites were going to hit, this would be a perfect spot for them to hit. Your toilets are good places to look because a lot of times you do have a water line that comes out. So if you have termites that are in those areas, they're definitely going to come up those water lines that are there. We do have a closet here. Here you can see the staining, and that's just all from the paint and the water hitting it and just moisture down like that. In some homes, your master closet will be against one of your tile showers or your bathtub or your sinks. Those are great because if they do have activity, it's easier to treat because you can come in from the closet side. But this one here does not. This here we know is an exterior wall. So it's always, you want to really look at your exterior wall as well. This one looks fine. Here in the hallway, you'll notice if you look up, you'll see water damage. And the water damage is coming across a light and an actual fire alarm, smoke detector. So you always want to make sure to keep note of that. Now here's one kicker on this one is, so this water damage is close to a bathroom. We've got a bathroom on the other side of this wall. What could happen here is if water damage comes down this wall, gets into this wall here, we could run into some termite issues here because it is an actual water penetration wall. There's actually water lines in this wall for the tub, for the toilet, and the sink. So a lot of times when you see this, you really want to pay close attention when you see water damage on a ceiling close to an actual water, what we call a wet wall. In this bedroom, you can still see there's water damage here as well. And again, that's just, you know, one thing you got to make sure and look for. All right, again, window sills, making sure you're always checking those. This one looks fine. There's no water damage or anything there. You can see that there's damage on the baseboards. That's just basically from furniture or something hitting it there. So here's our problem wall. So if you'll look straight up here, you will see here, 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 and here is actually termite damage. And what happens is termites, when they come up this wall, is they're actually building and bringing up dirt from below. And the reason they're doing that is to actually have what we would call a castle. It allows them to keep moisture that they need, but also keep a lot of the air off of them. They don't want a whole lot of air because it would cause them to dry out. Termites have to have moisture. As long as they have moisture and they have a food source, they can keep on living. And so this is what we usually would run into when we would see them. Now, when they're this high, we know that this problem's been here for a little while. And it could be anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. Termites work 24/7, so it's really hard to tell exactly how long, but it does take a little while for them to get up this high. When I see something like this, I want to see if there's anything else going on in this wall. So if I look directly with a flashlight, a lot of times the flashlight will actually hide spots that I can't see. So what I do is what I call shadowing it, and I'll actually take the flashlight and I'll come down the side like this and look at it at an angle. And what that does is that allows me to see imperfections in the paint, like right here. You can see where there's an indentation right there. Now that indentation, it's not cracking like an egg or anything, so there's not termite related, that's just an imperfection in the sheetrock. And there you can see there's a little nail pop right there. That's not termite related. As you come closer, sometimes I'll walk into it and I use the shadows of that light to see what's going on. Now, if you look with this shadow, it's hard to see it at this angle, but if I bring it a little bit, I can see that there's a little hole right there. Now that little hole sometimes would look like a thumbtack to a lot of people. But seeing how that little hole is in conjunction with this right here, that's telling me that's a vent hole for the termites. And we'll get a closer look at those areas right here. What we'll do is we'll use a little bit lower flashlight. So you can see here, we got a hole here. If you look over here, you can see a little bit of damage. This here looks like somebody wiped something on it from either messing around with it. You can see this right here. That's where some termites have come through. There's a little bitty tiny hole in there. So in this bathroom here, we have a double sink, we have the toilet and the tub all on this wall where we've had the termites. Now you can see here where the homeowner has actually already punched a hole in the wall. He wanted to see what kind of damage was inside this and stuff there. And looking inside it, it does not look like there's any termites in there. It looks clean. There's some trash and debris. There's a stud that runs right here and a stud that runs right here. And both of those are intact and solid with no mud tubing on them at all. So what that tells me is the water lines that are coming from here and going up is my culprit. This is going to be my troubled area. So when a treatment is done, because of this surround, we will actually do that treatment from the other side of the wall. If you look up, you can actually see mud tubing all up there, and that's all termite. In here in Texas, we deal with subterranean termites, and that's what they do. You can give a little shadow to that. There you go. Now, if you'll look down behind the toilet, you will see severe termite damage on the baseboard. And they had went into that baseboard pretty hot and heavy. And with that, there we go. And again, they're eating the cellulose material out of that wood. And most of the times these baseboards are not all wood. They're kind of a mixture between shavings, wood, cardboard, stuff like that. And it makes it a lot more appetizing to termites because it's easier to chew in wood. Then they get all that cellulose material out of it. So here, everything looks good so far. Now this closet is adjacent to that bathtub and everything, but the water lines are on the opposite side. Not to say that we couldn't have an issue over here, because it has happened if it's a very severe problem. But luckily with this one, there's no water lines in here, so it should be good. Again, looking at the wall, you can see there's just a lot of holes. And that's just all from just thumbtacks and nails and stuff like that. All right, so looking at this exterior wall here, again, you see major holes, but that's not termite related. Windowsill looks good. I'm kind of surprised with this location. We're not seeing a lot of water damage on the windowsills. That's a good thing. Now with this house, seeing how we found termites in a few locations, the one thing, instead of a spot treatment, which a lot of folks would do, we would recommend an actual full treatment. And a full treatment pertains to trenching outside around the foundation. It also includes drilling any secondary foundations, and plus doing the interior walls where the infections of the termites are. So that's one recommendation we'll make to the homeowners. Since we did find them in several different locations, especially on different sides of the house. So we'll make sure we make that recommendation. So on fireplaces, we want to look at and make sure everything's good there. Now with this fireplace being on an interior wall, we don't suspect very many issues with it because it is interior. There's no water lines anywhere around it. Now, if it's on an exterior wall, I have found on several occasions out of 1,000 inspections, maybe a handful, where termites have actually hit around a fireplace. And it depends on how well the fireplace is, structured on the outside. If the concrete or mortar has been cracked, so you look at those things. Now, you may be thinking, and the question could be is, well, if termites come in from the exterior walls or from water lines, why are we looking at all the interior walls? Well, that reason is because here in Texas, we get a lot of foundation movement. With that foundation movement, it has the potential of actually creating cracks. And if it creates a crack in the middle of the slab, you could have termites come up through those cracks and actually get into interior walls. I've had situations where there's been cracks and they've gotten into wood floors, interior walls, kitchen islands that didn't have water lines, but they were just a kitchen island. So it does happen. It's rare, but I've ran into that one. I can probably a couple dozen times where it's been a cracked slab foundation. All right, so here we are on the outside of this home, and we're going to look for anything that could be conducive or any issues that may be going on out here with termites. As you can see, we have a siding wall here. So this is a combination siding and brick home. And the good thing is this house, the foundation is very exposed. We can see a lot of things going on there. So this on the exterior should go quick because we'll be able to see if anything's going on real fast. So as we go through here, what we want to look for is we want to look for if there's any mud tubing or anything going on around here. We want to look for conducive conditions. Now right here is a piece of wood, and this piece of wood actually has termite damage in it. And you can see here it's got the holes, It's got the cellulose has been eaten out of it, and when you break it up, it's just crackling. And that's all termites right in there. And you can see how they've just really chewed this up. You can see right there where they've channeled it through the cellulose. And so this was right here, and that tells me that it's also got termites on the exterior. So this house definitely does need a full treatment. Now, one thing that we look at right here, so this is a Centricon termite bait station, and this tells me that this house has had some sort of a termite contract in the years past. Seeing how this one is, it does not look like it's been open in a very long time, so it's probably hadn't been serviced in years. But that's one thing that we'll talk to the homeowner about to see what the status is on these stations. So far, that's the only one I've seen. Again, you want to look at, this foundation level is very exposed. We can see everything that's going on with it. We can see if there's any cracks. We can see if there's any issues there. It all looks good. Now, one thing that I don't like to see, and that's a very heavy exposed foundation, and this one here is very exposed. You can see where the actual overpour is showing and everything. You got corner pops. And unfortunately, this is just not the way you want to see your foundation, because a lot of things can come up from behind it and create some issues there. We always want to make sure that they keep that covered up right. Corners right here are always good spots to find termites. The reason being is because there'll always be a lot of overpour. And when you pop that overpour off like that, you can sometimes see if there's issues going on back behind here. Does look good. I don't see any issues there, so this one is good. Luckily, it's not wood, it's just all overpour concrete. Again, we run into a section of siding. You always want to make sure you've got a good gap in between the siding and the soil. Reason being is if that is hidden and then down on top of the soil, you can't see any termite activity that may be going up from behind it. Another station here. As you can tell, the way it's wallered out, it's been a long time since these things have been checked. If you really want to kind of see what one of these look like, so basically with Centricon, it's an actual cellulose canister. This one here, and as you can see, it doesn't have any activity or anything going on with it. But that's what Centricon looks like. It's a one-stage system. So right here's another piece of wood. And this was in the ground. And you can see inside here where it's channeled, where termites have gotten into it and eat into it. And this is on the opposite side of the house from where the other one was. So this is telling me that this house really does need a full treatment to make sure everything is covered and secured on this. On garages, you want to look at your 2x8 trim here, making sure, one, it's not touching the ground. Two, I have seen a lot of occasions where termites would actually come up the expansion joint and then go into a garage that way. So you always want to make sure you're looking at that. Just because it's all concrete doesn't mean termites won't pop up in those areas. You want to watch your fences. You want to make sure that your fences, if they are touching your home, is that you do have a gappage between the soil and the actual wood. So that way you don't have a problem with termites coming up your fence and getting access into your home through, like with this house here, has a lot of wiring going in right here. That would be easy for termites to build a tube up and go right inside the house through that way. So right here you can see how the foundation has come up, and we see that there's holes right here. Now these holes, you can tell there's some conduit in there, and that could be one of two things. It could be either there's a water line there or there's electrical line coming through there. Not really sure, but that's not a good spot to see something like that. You also want to look at these areas right here, and these are your tensioning cables for your slab. They're supposed to have a skim coat over the top of those to keep that from being exposed and rusting out, but that's a total separate thing, but you so make sure and keep an eye on that as well. Keeping an eye on openings like that and that are key things in the inspection, because they're entry points for termites and easy access for them to get in. And that concludes the inspection. We'll go over everything with the client, measure, make sure everything's good to go, make sure he understands what kind of treatment methods we can do, what we can't do, the issue with the stamped concrete, that is as well, and what we'll do on the inside as far as foaming walls, that nature there. But that includes, this is Rick, I'm with the CitiTurf, the Home Pest Control Division, and we're here for your pest and termite needs, so if you need us, give us a call.